Today we attempt to turn a $1 steak into a $100 steak. This is an I-round steak. At $1, it's the cheapest and quite possibly the worst tasting cut on the cow.
That's one of the worst steaks I've ever eaten, actually.
That was so bad. On the other end of the spectrum, this here is an Australian Wagyu ribeye that'll easily cost $100 or more at a steakhouse. What makes these steaks different comes down to two characteristics: texture and flavor. And the I-round ranks low on both of these. This steak is almost impossible to chew, and it's also super lean and lacking in flavor. It's basically like eating shoe leather. So this is the plan. First, we test every meat tenderizer to see which is best. Then we'll test every flavor enhancer to find out which of those is superior. And finally, we'll combine the best meat tenderizing method with the best flavor enhancing method to make an ultra upgraded $1 Frankensteak to see if it can compete with one of the highest end steaks in the world. Buckle up because some of these techniques get absolutely crazy. Let's get started. The first category to improve tenderness and juiciness is using enzymes, and believe it or not, we're starting with fruit. Now before we continue, some of you might remember that I do require a little bit of redemption when it comes to this pineapple.
Oh, Max. Well, at least you made it through.
At least I made it through. Again, the goal is to try to slice it perfectly parallel on that center line. Let's move on. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain, which breaks down protein molecules in meat, which is why it's popular as a meat tenderizer. Our $1 steak goes into a bowl and we'll completely cover in the blended up pineapple. Next up, papaya, which contains an enzyme called papain, which is actually known to be even more potent than the bromelain, which is found in pineapple. Kiwi contains actinidin, a slightly more mild but still effective tenderizer. And finally, Asian pear, which contains cysteine protease. It's a famous meat tenderizing fruit for Korean barbecue. We'll get these guys in the fridge and check back in on them in about an hour and a half. And it's been exactly an hour and a half. And let's see what we got. Definitely a bit more gray, and it does feel pretty tender, but we'll only know once it's cooked. Next, we got the papaya. I will say this one does appear more tender than the pineapple. Kiwi. And the Asian pear. We'll treat each of these $1 steaks the same from this point forward, seasoning with salt and pepper, and we'll sear starting with the pineapple. We got all these burn bits on the side. I'm not feeling good about this one. You can see how the edges are just completely burning before we've even developed any crust in there. Despite some slight burning, it actually doesn't look bad at all. The papaya crust is a little less strong as it kind of steamed when it hit the pan, but the kiwi and Asian pear looked pretty perfect. Since this is the first taste test, we also have a regular control eye of round just to see what we're working with when it comes to this $1 steak, and it's time to taste. All right guys, let's start with the control. This is just a regular pan-seared eye round.
Kind of chewy.
It's really chewy.
I feel like I'm chewing gum.
Meat gum.
Pretty good beefiness.
I think the takeaway is it's impossible to chew. There's a reason people don't eat this as steak.
That cut right there needs a lot of work. Next up, pineapple marinated.
Wow.
Significantly more tender.
Way more tender.
By no means is that like a filet mignon, but it is probably 4 or 5 times more tender. And honestly, the flavor wasn't that much different. Like, generally speaking, it just tasted like a steak. All in all, a massive improvement. Papaya. It tastes like sirloin.
I'm blown away that this is the same steak as that.
Again, the flavor and the richness isn't there, but tenderness, I mean, that is a huge improvement.
I could have thought that that was like a New York strip.
Let's try the kiwi. Wow, so tender to the point where it's almost mushy.
If you gave me these steaks and did not tell me what they were, I'd probably say this is a bad filet mignon.
Great way to put it. I mean, this is just blowing my mind. Like, you guys could just stop the video right here with the takeaway that you should definitely be marinating your tough cuts. It is a night and day difference. But please don't stop the video because there's a lot more crazy stuff about to come. Cheers. That might be the best one of the day. So juicy and tender.
Wow.
I feel like I'm getting a little bit of sweetness, which I actually like.
That one was juicy.
Yeah, I think that's the winner.
You genuinely can't tell that there was fruit involved. I do agree, this was the best, and there's probably a reason why in Korean barbecue, they always use Asian pear for tenderizing.
Well, it is very clear that out of all of our fruit options, Asian pear was by far the best. Let's move on and see if it remains on top. Asian pear will start in the top spot when it comes to meat tenderizers, but let's keep testing to see which tenderizer is best of all. If anyone has a cure or knows what to do with a finger that looks like this, please let me know in the comments. This is bad. lemon juice. And when it comes to lemon juice, it is critical that you use the fresh stuff. Lemons can apparently tenderize steak as the acidity breaks down muscle fibers, but I've never tried this one. It's been about 5 hours, and I'm gonna be honest, this one is looking rough. It looks and feels almost like it's already been cooked. It is so weird. Definitely doesn't feel more tender. If anything, it feels super tough. Now that it's dried, it almost has this metallic look to it. This is just strange. Salt, pepper, and we'll sear. The crust actually doesn't look terrible given it's been soaking in a liquid, but let's see how it tastes. Whoa.
That is so unique.
You took the words out of my mouth. It feels like it should be a sour lemon candy, like lemon steak.
It reminds me of at Bickford's, this pancake house. They would have these big Dutch baby pancakes and they'd put lemon powdered sugar.
It's a savory lemon flavor.
Yeah.
I actually really like it, but I don't want a whole steak that tastes exactly like lemon.
Flavor, super interesting, but again, the whole purpose of this experiment is, does it make it more tender? I'd say it does to a slight degree, but not enough to make it worth it. For our next tenderizer, we have buttermilk. So buttermilk contains an enzyme called lipase, which helps in breaking down fats. However, when it comes to tenderizing steak, the primary way it does it is through lactic acid, which is produced by the fermentation process when buttermilk is made. That is a whole lot of sciencey technical terminology, but the reality is I have no idea if this is gonna work. And just like that, our buttermilk brine steak is good to go. Smells a little sour. Not the best crust of the day, but I do have some pretty high hopes for this one. Buttermilk. It's juicy, but the flavor is horrible, and it's not very tender.
It's really tough.
I actually don't really mind the flavor, but it's not tender, and I thought buttermilk is supposed to do that. I don't taste buttermilk in there.
It doesn't really add much.
Needless to say, buttermilk is not gonna be high on our list. Next up, baking soda. By raising the pH level, baking soda breaks down muscle fibers and is very common in Chinese cooking. And just like that, it's ready to go. I washed it off, then dried it. This looks exactly like a piece of ahi tuna. Beautiful deep red color, and it has that almost metallic shimmering color. And that right there is easily the most beautiful crust of the day. I mean, the outside is just this crazy, weird, gray, gummy, just strange looking crust. Baking soda. Whoa.
On the count of 3, say what you think it tastes like. 1, 2, 3.
Popcorn.
Belly
KFC.
skin.
Exactly like popcorn that's slightly burnt.
No, it's crispy pork belly skin.
No, guys, it's soggy KFC.
It actually is tender. It just affected the flavor way too much.
Does this taste better or worse than the control steak?
Flavor worse.
I think it's better.
But again, it does not taste like steak, and for that reason, I guess we have to say it doesn't work. Though personally, I'm a fan. Next up, pickle juice. Pickle juice is salty and acidic, which should have some tenderizing effect. Been about 5 hours, and our pickle steak should be done. We'll pat it dry, then just season with salt and pepper. Needless to say, this is the best crust of the day. Pickle. It tastes like pickle.
I love it. I love pickles.
Really?
It's seasoned in pickle, and pickles are salty, so you get a salty, amazing pickle brine flavor.
It did make it a little bit more tender, and the flavor, I don't know if I can get on board with it, but in terms of tenderness, it kind of works, kind of doesn't.
But in the grand scheme of adding tenderness to a steak, realistically, this is not it. Moving on. And next up, we got seltzer. Soda water's apparently a common tenderizer in Russia and some other parts of the world, but I'm a little skeptical. And let's find out if that seltzer has worked its magic. I mean, call me crazy, but this looks way more like veal or pork than any kind of beef. I guess veal is kind of beef, but you get the point. It does not look like normal beef. This crust is looking weak. I mean, this was essentially a waterlogged steak. It basically like just steamed / boiled in its own juices. I mean, it's looking more like tuna than any sort of steak I've seen. That crust is not what you want to be seeing on a steak. Oh,
That's so bad.
so bad.
That's one of the worst steaks I've ever eaten,
That
actually.
is so bad.
It's gamey. It's like watered down steak flavor that's kind of gamey and gross.
There's literally zero beefiness left on that steak. Zero crust development. I agree with you, Sophia. That might be the worst steak I've ever had in my life. Do not do that. Next up, we have powdered tenderizer. This stuff contains bromelain, the same enzyme found in pineapple. So they only recommended about 30 minutes. Unfortunately, I got a little carried away. It's been over 5 hours. Let's see how this is. And we'll season it up just like normal. This is the powdered tenderizer you can buy in a store.
Wow.
I'm a little disappointed because like this is the easy expected answer of what would be best. There's literally a powdered store-bought tenderizer, but it just works.
I thought it was a gimmick.
And we did this for 5 hours, way more than the recommended time. It tastes like a perfectly tender steak.
Yeah, I think this would do the best job tricking someone into thinking a cheap steak was an expensive steak because it doesn't alter the flavor in any bad way. It actually gives it a really nice, salty, dry brine.
That's the other thing. It does have salt in it, so not only does it tenderize, but it's also dry brining, and like that salt is penetrating deeply, so it's salty, it's tender. As much as I'd love to use like the Asian pear or one of the more natural things, we are on a mission to make the cheapest steak possible taste like a $100 steak. So we gotta go with what tastes best, and at least so far, that is it. Next up, ginger. Ginger has something called zingibane. Not even gonna act like I pronounced that one right whatsoever, but it apparently has a strong tenderizing effect. And our ginger steak is good to go. Gave it a quick rinse and dried it off. This is what it's looking like. It does feel a bit more tender, but it still has a very strong ginger smell. That is another rough looking crust. Let's see how it tastes. Ginger.
Very gingery.
It's got a little kick to it at the end.
Kind of reminds me of the ginger dressing at hibachi restaurants.
It's a super potent tenderizer. I think it made the meat a little bit more tender for sure, but not as much as the fruit from before. We're trying to make a $1 steak, a $100 steak. You don't do that by making it taste like ginger, right?
True. Next up, pink curing salt, aka sodium nitrite. Pink curing salt is a critical component to cured meats, a process that often results in a more tender texture. And we'll see this in a couple days. And just like that, it has been 3 full days, and this guy should be done. I mean, it almost feels waterlogged. One thing I will say is the smell is absolutely delicious. It smells exactly like pastrami that hasn't been cooked yet. I mean, definitely the best smelling steak. It's almost like roasted bacon. The crust is also beautiful, and I mean, that is juicy. Sodium nitrite, this one looks very different than the rest. I think that's the best of the day.
I love that. It's like Canadian bacon.
To me, it tastes like a smoky burnt end almost. Those crunchy bits, that is unbelievable.
I love the cured taste, but what I will say is it's not like a premium taste.
I agree with you. It wouldn't turn a $1 steak into a $100 steak. I don't know if I could eat a whole steak's worth of that. Like, it's good for a few bites, but you wouldn't really want to sit down and eat that whole thing. The next category to improve tenderness is using mechanical tenderizers, and we're starting with this. We just go right on top of the steak, press down, allowing those prongs to complete, wow, we're stuck. All right, technical difficulties. But yeah, allowing those prongs to go through. What? You guys get the point. Believe it or not, a lot of steaks you get at a grocery store are blade tenderized, which is a similar concept as this. All right, guys, this is our very first mechanical, like manual tenderizer.
It's not doing it for me.
It's not terrible though.
No, it's not terrible. Honestly, I can't tell a difference between this and the control.
Really? My piece is way more tender than the control.
Definitely better than the control, but there is some toughness that's still there. So I wouldn't say it did the best job.
Overall, I'd say it works, though there are definitely better options. Next up, we got the KitchenAid automatic tenderizer attachment. Ew. One thing I know for sure, you do not want to put your fingers in here. Come on. Oh, whoa. Look at this thing. It freaking put in some work. That took like half a second. I am very impressed. And just like that, our steak is done. And it's crazy how it sort of tightened up and reformed its shape. I mean, I can tell the fibers are just significantly more tender than normal with this one.
It looks like a hamburger.
Wow, that really works.
That might be the best steak of the day. The flavor of the crust is on point, very tender.
It's like hamburger-y.
I agree.
Yeah, a little hamburgery.
That crust to meat ratio is just amplified right now because of all those divots and rivets.
Like this really breaks down those fibers inside the meat.
I think the powdered tenderizer is just a little bit better, mostly because it retained the integrity and the structure of the steak itself. It does kind of break it down and make it difficult to combine this method with other techniques, but at least for me, that is for sure in the top 2. And if you have a KitchenAid with that attachment, it is absolutely worth it. Next up, par. And you know I'm gonna be double bagging this one. How's it looking?
We got a problem.
Really? Oh no. How'd that happen? I think we gotta do it in vacuum seal. Vacuum seal.
Houston, we have a problem.
No! Come on.
I don't think it's getting traction in the bag.
You don't say? Seriously. Oh yeah. Now we're talking. I think we finally got it. I mean, if that isn't tender, I don't know what is. Look at that just beautiful steak, the profile on that thing. Now we'll just sear up our roadkill steak. And I'm just gonna say it, somehow this doesn't look bad at all.
Dude, what is going on with that steak? It looks like a hamburger that was thrown on the ground.
Cal, don't ask questions, just enjoy the steak at your own risk.
It's kind of tender.
It's super tender.
What?
That might be the most tender steak of the day.
That is so tender.
What did you do to that?
Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna say it's the most convenient method to tenderize a steak, but by golly, it works.
What did you do to it?
I ran over it with my car.
Oh my God.
Mallet. This one's pretty straightforward, just beating that meat. Okay, think I'm gonna call it here. Don't want it to get too thin. I still want this thing to be a steak. It held its shape a lot more than some of the previous, and with that cross section, you can see how the fibers are broken down. Mallet. Again, pretty meh. It's a little more tender than the control, but it's still gotta chew.
I think I know what's happening here. The mallet kind of breaks down the exterior, but it doesn't penetrate, so you still get all of that tough interior.
I mean, I'm still chewing. There are way better options. I got the meat sweats. The final category to improve tenderness is the cooking method, and we're starting with the pressure cooker.
Oh my God!
We'll start by adding in some chicken stock. I will say I am very inexperienced when it comes to pressure cookers, so we'll see how this goes. Steak in. 35 minutes are up, so I think it should be done. Time to release the pressure. Oh, I mean, it already smells delicious. Let's see what we got. Something tells me this is gonna be overcooked, but we'll see how it tastes. Definitely lacking a crust on this one. The dreaded well done steak. I mean, that is as well done as it gets. It does sort of have this like pullable texture though, which you'd expect from something braised, smoked, or I guess in this case, cooked in a pressure cooker.
I'm gonna be honest, this kind of looks like a hockey puck.
Somehow, it's so tender, but it's so dry. Like maxed out both categories.
It's not good. There's no moisture in it. We did succeed in making it tender, which was the point, but given how dry it is, it just isn't gonna work. Next up, sous vide. You can think of this as a bathtub for your steak, holding a precise temperature for perfect edge-to-edge doneness. And we'll get it into the bath, and we'll see you in 24 hours. And just like that, our 24 hours are up. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys and say that this steak is looking good right now, but the cool thing is that the longer something is sous vide, the more tender it gets. I've left stuff in here for multiple days with great tenderizing success. This is a sous vide steak. That is the perfect tenderness of a steak.
Even though it's tender, it tastes overcooked. It's not that juicy, yummy, medium rare taste.
It's super tender, but something about sous vide, it feels like it takes out some of the flavor of cooking a steak a traditional way, like in a pan or on a grill.
All that said, it is a viable option. It's still tender and relatively juicy, just maybe not the best of the day. Now this might be illegal, but this one, we're smoking like a brisket. All we need to do is season normally and get it on the grill, and we're smoking over applewood. Well, that one took a full 6 hours, but our eye round has reached 203 Fahrenheit. But Will it be tender? Dun, dun, dun. That is not juicy, but we do have a little baby smoke ring. It's actually kind of cool. I mean, this thing looks drier than the Sahara Desert. Certainly doesn't appear juicy, but let's see if it's shreddable. A little bit. I mean, it's definitely a bit tender.
Really cute smoke ring.
But it's not that bad. It's very tender and has an incredible smoke flavor, but
It is so dry.
I need water. The thing about eye round is that it lacks connective tissue. Kyle, chew.
I can't.
You get your water after you swallow.
So dry up in there.
Brisket, for example, has a lot of it, so when it breaks down, it keeps it juicy. Eye round does not work smoking it like a brisket, though it does taste pretty good.
Bye, Felicia.
Dude, it's stuck on my throat. I need my water.
Honestly, that last steak was extremely dry, but I'm gonna show you something that isn't. This is a sample piece of Max Jerky Texas barbecue that we just received from our factory today. It's one of many unique flavors we've handcrafted, and it's the best way to support our channel. Use code TENDER25 for a 25% discount at maxjerky.com if you'd like to give it a shot. Okay guys, we've officially tested 20 tenderizing techniques. The unanimous winner is the powdered tenderizer, meaning that is what we will use for our final steak, and it's time we move on to enhancing flavor. So we found some pretty good methods to improve tenderness, but what's debatably more important than tenderness is great flavor. Something this cheap steak here is definitely missing. So now it's time to test flavoring methods to see if we can turn $1 flavor into $100 flavor. Starting off with a super unique one, we got honey. I've actually done this one before and the results were insane. This is gonna be very sweet, so making sure to start it off with a lot of salt and pepper. Then just completely covering it in 100% honey. And we'll see you in 2 days. And this is what we got. After a full 48 hours, I'll wipe away as much leftover honey as possible. And I'll also season once more to hopefully balance the sweetness. The crust is looking fantastic and it seems pretty juicy, so let's see. Okay guys, for our next steaks, keep in mind they are not necessarily gonna be tender. All we are judging on is flavor. First up, we have honey soaked.
I love that. Crispy crust, amazing flavor.
But not as overwhelmingly sweet as you would expect it to be.
I don't like a sweet steak. I like my savory food savory and my sweet food sweet, and I don't always like to combine them. Honestly, I think it ruins the steak.
All that said, if you like sweet and savory, this is absolutely something you need to try. Is this specifically something that'll turn a $1 steak into a $100 steak? Let's try the rest before we decide. This is one I think has the most potential. It's time for the tallow injection. High quality steaks are already filled with flavorful marbling on the inside, and this one has none of it. So by injecting like this, we're basically giving it artificial marbling. It should lead to way better flavor and also help with juiciness. With it fully injected, I'll season normally and give it a sear. Slicing into it, it is clear that this steak is way juicier than others from today, but we'll see how it translates when eaten. The Botox steak. That's crazy.
So juicy.
It's still tough, like it didn't make it more tender, and it added exactly what was missing when it comes to flavor.
I'm kind of surprised the flavor and the juiciness actually really does stick with the steak throughout the cook process. I thought it might just all fall out.
It improves the flavor, it improves the juiciness. That right there is a winner. Next up, we're gonna try a duck fat confit. Confit is a French cooking method which translates to preserve. It's often done with fattier cuts like duck, but it should add crazy flavor. Ran out of the duck fat, so I am gonna finish it off with a little bit of Wagyu tallow, which should act the exact same way. And this stuff here is my favorite. We'll gently add in the steak, followed by some garlic and herbs for a little more flavor. And we'll just slowly bring up the temp, allowing that steak to confit. It's been about an hour, and our steak has reached the internal temp. Quick sear, and let's see how it tastes. Confit.
I love that one. That is the juiciest steak I've eaten today.
And it's almost less beefy for me. It's like the fat's pulled out the beefiness.
Doesn't add flavor, it honestly does take away. I just like the juiciness.
Unique, but not worth it. Next. Why is there compound butter flying out of the sky?
The sky is falling!
Next up, compound butter. Compound butter is a great way to add flavor once a steak is finished cooking. I like to rest a hot steak directly on knobs of the flavored butter, preserving the crust over the top while letting the steak melt and absorb the flavor from below. It also doubles as the perfect dipping sauce when it's time to eat. Compound butter.
Wow.
That might be the biggest increase in flavor that we've had today based on a technique.
I love the herb flavors. It just enhances that steak experience. I love it.
It makes me feel like I'm eating steak at a really fancy restaurant, because restaurants use an absurd amount of butter, and I typically don't do that at home. But clearly there's a reason for it, because that right there is unbelievable.
That will make any steak 10 times better.
I'm just gonna speak for all of us. We are definitely using that on our $100 steak, and you should be using it too. This is a traditional one. It's time for the butter based. Unlike the last one, we're adding butter during the cooking process, and I'm also throwing in some garlic and herbs. The flavors release into the butter, creating this golden blanket over the steak while helping it cook more evenly. Not to mention, it makes your house smell amazing. Butter based. The butter basting adds some really nice richness.
It's like a different type of compliment than the compound butter. That was way more intense. This is more subtle, and I feel like paired together, it might be really good.
I think we gotta use this one.
I think so too.
Next up, umami powder. Gotta give this thing a taste. Whoa, it tastes like umami. They're not lying here. It is so flavorful. There is salt in the umami powder, so going very light on the salt, just a little bit of black pepper, then I'll give it a nice coating of that umami powder. Happy to see that the umami powder didn't burn, so let's give it a shot. Umami powder. It makes it better, but it's pretty subtle.
Tastes a little bit oniony, garlicky, but doesn't taste like a really high-end steak.
I'm getting liver and onions, which I actually love, but for a steak, I don't prefer it.
Let's move on. Someone call Uncle Roger, because next up, it's MSG. And if you don't know what MSG is, it's basically
Salt on crack.
monosodium glutamate is a flavor enhancer that provides tons of umami and savoriness. So MSG is a little different than salt, so we're still gonna add that. Bit of black pepper, and finally, those little crystals of monosodium glutamate. MSG used to have a terrible reputation, but in my opinion, it really shouldn't and is totally fine in moderation. Cheers.
It's like a punch of flavor.
It reminds me of the umami powder, but a more clean kick. It kind of brings out the beefiness, which I love.
MSG gets a really bad reputation, but it's just kind of like elevated salt.
It is fairly subtle, but it does add like a 10 to 20% increase in flavor. For that reason, I have a very good feeling we'll be using this at the end of the video. Next up, the tried and true dry brine. All you need to do is season with a bunch of salt, then get it on a rack and into the fridge for a couple hours. After 4 hours, all the salt has been absorbed with a dry exterior, which is key. It allows for a way better crust than normal and also should lead to better flavor deep in the meat. I want the viewer to know we've eaten about 25 eye-round steaks. Yes, we're doing our best to improve them, but this is probably the lowest quality steak on the cow, and we've been eating a lot of it off screen. There's been a lot of steak consumed, so I just really hope you're learning something. If you are, please just drop a comment. Let us know if you're enjoying the video. It'd really mean a lot to us. Significant improvement on the crust. That's the main thing.
The thing about that, crust isn't just texture, it's all the flavor. That is like the best flavor enhancer without actually doing much different.
It makes a huge difference. Next up, we're gonna try adding cold smoke. Cold smoking involves adding real smoke and that the smoke is not cooking the food. Of course, here we got that good stuff, that sweet, sweet apple wood. This smoke gun spits out room temp smoke, so it's perfect for this application. Trying to get it super, super dense and smoky in there. And we'll let that smoke. It's been about 30 minutes. I did that 2 times. Let's see what we got. I mean, it definitely smells like smoke. Let's give it a sear. This one does require a good amount of work, not to mention your whole house will smell like applewood, so let's see if it's worth it.
That's good.
Couldn't taste it at first, but then halfway through the bite, I got a subtle applewood smoke flavor. I love it.
I love that it's not overpowering. It's just this slight hint that really enhances the steak.
I agree, because when something's super heavy on smoke, I don't like it that much. This is really subtle, and I do think it elevates the steak in a nice way.
It did take probably 30 or 40 minutes sitting in that enclosure, so you do have to be patient, but it is absolutely worth it, and I have to believe we'll be using this for our $100 steak. We have tested 30 techniques and these are the winners. And with those, it's time to take on the $100 steak. Step 1, dry brine. It's time to combine all of our best techniques to hopefully transform this into an exceptional steak. And we know dry brining should help with the crust. Step 2, tenderizing powder. Step 3, MSG. Step 4, cold smoke. This steak has already been through the ringer, but it smells amazing and we're not done yet. For step 5, we have the Wagyu fat injection. Step 6, time to butter baste with herbs and garlic. I'm pretty nervous at this point. I am really hoping this Frankensteak is epic, but I do have to say the crust is looking really nice. And finally, step 7. We'll let our steak rest on the compound butter, and slicing into it, I mean, that looks pretty good for a $1 steak. But only one thing matters: how does it compare to an actual premium Wagyu steak? And here she is, the $100 steak. This is everything you want from a steak. The pinnacle of tenderness and the pinnacle of flavor. The only downside is the price, which is why this next taste test is so important. It's time we find out the truth. All right, guys, can our $1 steak beat the $100 steak? I'm actually feeling very nervous right now. This is probably my favorite steak, Australian Wagyu ribeye, a true $100 steak.
The perfect steak.
I think we're in trouble.
That is so good.
You wouldn't want it to be more rich. You wouldn't want it to be more beefy. It is perfection in steak form. And time to compare it to our $1 Frankensteak. It's been dry brined. We've added tenderizing powder. We've thrown on some MSG. It's been cold smoked, injected with Wagyu fat, butter basted, and served over compound butter. As my good friend Gugu would say, enough talking.
Let's do it.
It's really good.
We'll start with that. It is really good.
For a $1 steak, I cannot imagine one being better than that. I'd probably pay $50 for that in a restaurant and be very happy with it and not think anything like this is a cheap steak.
I feel like it reminds me of a filet mignon that I'd get at a steakhouse. I am definitely impressed with how all those techniques worked on that steak.
I mean, it is extremely flavorful. It's quite tender. It is delicious.
It is not better than this one, but it is really, really good.
I tried so hard. Did you hear what I did to the steak?
You know how much I sacrificed?
You just can't beat that steak.
You just cannot beat the real deal. At the end of the day, all those techniques are great and I'd highly recommend you give them a shot. Is it necessary to throw them all at one singular steak? Maybe not, but I will say it is amazing. Thank you all so much for watching. Really hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time.